Up to the 30, the 20, 10, 5. Torrey Horton back to the end zone.
48-yard play. Guess who? Body up the middle, making another move to the outside. 15, 10, end zone again.
Keeps it. Nice move by Brown. He's got space. He's got 6. 35-yard touchdown for Byron Brown. A record-setting night for the South Florida quarterback.
Down so far, a little bit of a high snap. Genty right up the middle. Genty has room. Ashton Genty, give him 6.
Second and long. Lagar tries to fit it in. Ruddles, it does. Ruddles stays up. The Suns offense 4-3 wins. Incredible effort for Ruddles.
The G5 Hive. All G5, all the time.
Welcome to the G5 Hive Live. We are excited to bring you the G5 college football coverage you love each and every week. I am Luke. I'm joined by my co-host, Justice. We're only 6 subscribers away from 500 on YouTube. So if you're watching us on X, which I see a lot of you are, head over to YouTube, hit a sub there. We would appreciate it. Again, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're watching us on X, please give us a follow, a like, a retweet. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, please rate and review. Don't forget, the G5 Hive merchandise store is now live. Link in the YouTube comments as well as pinned on our X page and here at the bottom of the screen. All right, our week 14 games in review. Midweek G5 matchups. We have Toledo at Akron. I'm pulling up the scores because I don't have them written down right now. So excuse me.
Akron gets the win. Akron gets the win against Toledo. Akron,
Overtime.
Yeah, Akron actually dominated this game until the fourth quarter. Toledo could do nothing until the fourth quarter. They came alive in the fourth quarter. They actually had a chance to win the game. And they missed the field goal, and it goes to overtime, and Akron pulls it out. I was happy for Akron, man, because they dominated that game, and then Toledo all of a sudden woke up in the fourth quarter and started scoring some points, and forced the overtime. But yeah, great game by Akron.
Yeah, Akron wins 21-14. Ended on with that sack there at the end, and players were pretty jacked at the end of that game. Kent State at Buffalo. Buffalo wins a close one. Nail biter, 43-7. It was all Buffalo. It wasn't much of a game. LJ Henderson wasn't in the game at the beginning. He comes in. He gets 30 carries, 185 yards rushing, and a touchdown.
CJ Agbana had a day.
Yeah, he had 193 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. But Victor Snow, 8 receptions, 99 yards, touchdown. I think he got tackled before his punt return touchdown. I don't recall. Maybe he had the kickoff return. He also got a scholarship at the end of the game.
Yeah, he got put on scholarship. I think he got put on scholarship the week before, or maybe it was this. I don't remember. It was either this, like right after this game, or the week before after the game. He got put on scholarship. He was a walk-on, leading the team in receiving this year. A great season by Buffalo.
Absolutely. I did not see this season coming. They had quarterback problems. We had no idea who's going to throw the ball. It was a mess, and boy, has it turned out well.
Yeah, I mean they were in the hunt for the MAC championship game. They got 2 of the nation's best linebackers, Sean Dolak, Red Murdoch. I believe they're number 1 and number 2 in tackles in the nation. So a great tandem there at linebacker. CJ Agbana, kind of really came on strong once they got into MAC play. Same with LJ Henderson. Excited to kind of see what 2025 can mean for Buffalo. If you don't know, Sean Dolak has another year of eligibility. Whether he's going to use that year or not, I don't know. He has another year of eligibility. And if he returns, man, I think they are probably the preseason favorites, assuming they don't suffer any other losses. Preseason favorites in the MAC.
Yeah, they'll have a lot of guys coming back. Memphis at Tulane. big upset in this one where Memphis wins 34-24. Mario Anderson caps off the upset with a 47-yard touchdown run. He had 177 and a touchdown on the night. Mario Williams, 7 receptions, 130 yards receiving and a touchdown. Mensa with 317 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. A bad pick there at the end. But
when they had a chance to make something happen, and he just kind of threw it up. And it was a terrible decision. And Memphis Tulane had no answer for Greg DeRozier's Jr. I mean, he torched them running the ball. He torched them catching the ball. They had no answer for him. And like you said, that Memphis or Tulane offense sputtered just one too many times, and it had some key mistakes, key turnovers, and key situations. And it just it's kind of hard to overcome that. This one was kind of heartbreaking for me as a fan of the G5, right? Because Tulane, if they win this game and win the American Championship over Army, they had a realistic shot, I feel, of making the playoffs. Unfortunately,
I thought the Big 12 champions would get it, because you're going to have Arizona State versus Iowa State. You don't know it at the time. That's how it plays out, and how they were ranked was right in between them. So it's whichever one wins, obviously, is going in. So I didn't think Tulane really was going to get in there just by how that season was.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I don't know. Kind of, to me, it's just a little disappointing because I'd like to see what would happen, right? If both Boise State and Tulane had won out, how that would. I mean, I think I know how it would have shaken out, but still would have liked to see it play out. Unfortunately, with the Tulane loss, in my opinion, and we'll talk about this game later, the only G5 that's going to get in the playoffs is whoever wins the Mountain West, Boise State or UNLV, and hope it's Boise State because they'll get a bye. But we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But yeah, disappointing loss for Tulane.
And Tulane was also playing for home field advantage in the AAC championship. So we will see. If Army was able to win, then they get home field advantage. So we'll get to that a little bit later. Miami at Bowling Green. In this one, Miami wins pretty handily, 28-12. It was. I was.
That Miami defense is good, man. I
was pretty disappointed in just how Bowling Green was. I don't think they got a first down probably the whole first quarter. They tried to get the ball to Harold Fannin. He was covered up pretty well, but then one of the times when he had an opportunity, they just Bazelak just missed him. And then Miami was throwing interceptions, and Bowling Green couldn't do anything with them. It was they had opportunities. They just didn't capitalize on any of them. So that was.
Yeah, Gabbard had 2 interceptions. They didn't have any fumbles, but the offense just couldn't do anything. And we've talked about it before. That Miami defense is pretty legit, and we'll talk about them some more. But they started off the year kind of rough, but they've come on and they've played the way we would have expected here the last few weeks, and prime for another MAC championship for the Red Hawks.
And then Ball State at Ohio. Ohio wins this one 42-21. Parker Navarro, big game. He very well could have been one of our offensive players of the week. He had 5 touchdowns and helps Ohio Bobcats make it to the MAC championship. Coleman Owen makes his return, 5 receptions, 142 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He had a couple long ones in this one. Anthony Tyus surpassed 100 yards in this one. It was a good game from Ohio.
Yeah, and the Ohio defense is pretty daggone good too. Disappointing season for Ball State. They have a head coaching vacancy, so we'll see who they hire. But I think folks certainly envision more than 3 wins and more than 2 conference wins for Ball State. Be interesting to see what Tanner Koziol does, right? If he returns to Ball State, if he doesn't enter the portal or pursue the NFL. Haven't heard any of those things yet. Last year he did test out the portal and then ended up coming back to Ball State. So it'd be interesting to kind of see what Tanner does here this time around.
All right, and then Oregon State at Boise State. Boise State wins 34-18. Ashton Jeanty, 37 carries, 226 yards, 1 touchdown. This was the Ashton Jeanty show. They had a rough time there a little bit in the first half, towards the end of the first half in that second quarter. And then they just leaned on their workhorse of Ashton Jeanty and it got things going. Cam Camper had a couple big catches throughout the game. But Ashton Jeanty.
One thing that's surprised me this year that we haven't seen from Ashton Jeanty, and because he's great at it, is they have not utilized him in the passing game as much as they have in the past. And he's a phenomenal pass catcher out of the backfield.
Absolutely. That is
it's a little bit surprising how they used him this year.
And then I don't know if I want to say a shocker, but just how the game was going.
Yeah.
Navy wins 34-20. It was 3-0 at halftime. I kind of thought that, Navy can get you sucked into, that run option. But East Carolina's been putting up points. But then Navy comes out with 34 points in the second half and just trounces East Carolina.
And they did it with the backup quarterback. No Blake Horvath. Braxton Woodson got the start. Yeah, he had a phenomenal day as well. He had touchdown throwing, 125 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. East Carolina defense just could not, as phenomenal as they played in the first half, it's complete opposite in the second half.
And then Liberty at Sam Houston. I told you guys, I don't remember when. I know it was before the season started. We did conference breakdowns. I was big into Sam Houston. I was like, it's going to come down to that last weekend. I think Sam Houston beats Liberty to make it to the CUSA title game. Well, they did their part. They won 20-18 in a weird game, 3-2 at the first quarter with the safety there. But Sam Houston wins it. Liberty, had Salter in, brings in Berger. He used his legs. So Sam Houston remained in contention for the CUSA title game. It would come down to a later game to see if they would be able to make it. But they did their part. Now they will win and just wait to see what happens later. Hunter Watson, they were able to get the passing attack going. They've really struggled passing the ball the last 4 weeks, whatever you want to say. 202 yards passing, 2 passing touchdowns. Leaned on Jay Ducker for running. But, Houston with the win. Saw it coming.
Phenomenal season.
Yeah, saw it coming. And here we are. Unfortunately, I don't want to spoil it, but they did not make the conference championship game. I think we all know it. But they did their part that they had to do there. Utah State at Colorado State. I did not get any eyes on this one. I don't know.
This was a crazy game, man. This was a crazy game in the fourth quarter. Utah State was dominating Colorado State. And then Colorado State, got the passing game going, went absolutely bonkers in the fourth quarter, scored 29 points to win this game in the fourth quarter. Braden Fowler, Nicolosi ended up having his best game of the year, 370 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. Dane Olson, 5 catches, 140 yards, a touchdown. Freshman Jordan Ross, 5 catches, 58 yards, a touchdown. Colorado State could not get the running game going, but they got the passing game going. And I don't know. It was just a crazy game. I wrote them off. I thought they were done. Next time I check on they're just going bonkers in the fourth quarter to beat Utah State, who was without their starter, Spencer Petras. Bryson Barnes had a great game for them, 189 yards, passing, 3 touchdowns, another 185 yards on the ground, and a rushing touchdown. And he returns next year, or if he doesn't enter the portal. Utah State is also looking for a head coach. If you don't recall, their head coach got fired, I don't know, like 2-3 weeks before the season, something like that. Yeah. And so the current head coach is the interim. Certainly, I would assume he's in contention for the permanent job. But I would imagine now that the season's over, Utah State did not make a bowl game. I would expect that we will hear something, in the next week or so, who their next head coach is. So stay tuned for that.
I can't wait to hear who that is. Now, I do a little bit of writing for Fantrax. If you're not sure what Fantrax is, it's fantasy football for college. I guess they do.
Well, they do all sports. So they're a platform for fantasy sports, whether it's NFL, college football, NBA, college basketball, hockey, golf, NASCAR. They have pretty much any fantasy league you would want. They run it.
So here's an article for a waiver wire that I wrote. Tell me how I did on this. Do you need a long shot this week? Bryson Barnes is a great G5 final waiver wire name to know. I find it highly unlikely that we see Spencer Petras in Week 14 against Colorado State. In relief, Barnes went 13 of 15 for 139 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. He added 193 yards and a touchdown on the ground, too, for a monster Week 13. Colorado State's defense is allowing quarterbacks to complete 17 passes on 28 pass attempts for 184 yards and 1 touchdown per game over their last 3. They're also allowing 156 yards rushing and 1.6 touchdowns per game over that same span. I also believe Utah State might be down in the running game, given the injuries that the Aggies are facing. I believe Bryson Barnes will do it all for them in Week 14.
You nailed it, my friend. You nailed it.
I mean, that other than, the final outcome, the 29 points there in the fourth quarter, they're on their way. But Bryson Barnes did it all. 24 carries, 185 yards, and a touchdown. It was close. So if you're into fantasy football, check out those posts. I feel like I've done pretty good on those. I'll have to do like a recap or something at some point. I got to take some weeks off. I'm tired of writing every week. Really close after, I only get a couple days to do it. But anyways, enough about Fantrax and not a sponsor. Maybe they want to be. We'll see. Where did I leave? I guess Utah State, Colorado was where we left off. So Texas State versus South Alabama. Texas State wins 45-38. I think the big thing here, South Alabama got Fluff Bothwell with 2 big runs in the game. Ishmael Mahdi, friend of the podcast, 147 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Jamal Pritchett, 10 receptions, 85 yards and a touchdown. McLeod threw quite a bit of interceptions in this one. Did not look great. And then Gio
Lopez got knocked out of the game. That was
he was on crutches at one point, and then he went back to the locker room, didn't return just towards the end of the game.
That seems to be like a recurring theme with South Alabama this year. I feel like this is like the 3rd time that he's gotten knocked out of a game. And pretty much every time he gets knocked out of a game, that kind of ends their hopes. And he didn't, there was a game he also didn't even play because of injury. That was a
turf toe, I think. Turf toe.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same thing over and over or what's going on, but he got knocked out of a few games, and when he got knocked out, the offense just didn't look the same. This was a great game up until that point, and then with no Gio Lopez, it kind of killed the momentum that the Jaguars had.
All right. Now, our California love this week, we had Stanford at San Jose State. This one was a fun game. San Jose State wins 34-31.
A lot of offense, not a lot of defense. A lot of offense.
I'm trying to think of the other guys. Amenyor, and there's another
Emmett
guy.
Emmett Mosley is the other receiver for Stanford.
They had a great game. Nick Nash. Egat, what a difference good weather in a week makes. 33 of 49 for 385 yards and a touchdown. But yeah, this was a fun.
Justin Lockhart played, but he was clearly hurting a little bit.
I think it was his right shoulder or something. He had like a harness on and had some hard times going up and getting it every so often. That was a fun and entertaining game to watch. San Jose State is really fun when they're clicking. Obviously, we saw the bad, or not even the bad. We saw the ugly.
The week before, yeah, absolutely. And most important, this was another G5 over P4 win. Great way to end the season, right? With another G5 over P4 win. I want to say that's like number 7. Does that sound right?
7,
yeah. UNLV had 2 of them. Everyone else has had 1. But yeah, great way to end the season. Seeing the G5 knock off Stanford from the ACC.
And then we have Fresno State at UCLA. UCLA wins 20-13 in this one. I did not have any eyes on this during all the games.
Yeah, I mean, Fresno State was winning at half, and then the UCLA defense kind of took over, really stopped Fresno State there in the second half. They only scored 3 points, and they end up losing a close game. But they played well for a half. They just couldn't keep it up for the entire game.
All right, well, let's get to our Saturday featured G5 matchups. We had UTSA at Army. This was a fun game. UTSA had some opportunities. They were not able to pull it out. Army wins 29-24. That means the American Championship game will be played at Army. Daly had 27 carries, 147 yards, rushing, and 2 touchdowns. McEwen made his comeback. He had 82 yards receiving on just 3 catches for 1 touchdown. This game was fun. UTSA played really good defense, stopping Army on some 4th downs. I feel like one of the turning points, I can't remember if it was the 3rd quarter, but UTSA went for it on 4th down in their own territory and got stuffed. And then from that point on, Army kind of took over from there. But this was a really good game, a good battle, offense, defense. There was turnovers by both teams. And it was mainly of the just getting stopped on 4th down. But it was a good football game all around. Louisiana at Louisiana Monroe. This one was also a fun one. Louisiana wins 37-23. Fields for Louisiana, again, backup quarterback in for Ben Wooldridge, who broken collarbone, I believe, is what he's got. He had 188 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Ahmad Hardy for UL Monroe, 28 carries, 172 yards on the ground and a touchdown. This one was a good one. UL Monroe led at different parts of this, and you could see them kind of getting momentum, but then they would throw an interception.
He had 3 interceptions that killed him.
Louisiana just had less turnovers.
And they needed to win UL Monroe needed to win the game to get to bowl eligibility, which they didn't do. Louisiana needed to win the game to they didn't know. I mean, I guess they did know. They did know South Alabama lost. But the game, if they had lost, they may not be hosting the Sun Belt championship game.
That was
there was definitely something at play for both teams.
And that 37-23 score is, I mean, it's 14 points, but it felt closer than that for the most part. Louisiana scores 17 in the 4th. Louisiana Monroe scores 7 in the 4th. But like this game, it really felt like Louisiana Monroe won it for the most part. I get that feeling, but then they just had these interceptions that killed them. And it was just this like just momentum swings all game is kind of how that was. Like, okay, UL Monroe's going to do it. Oh, they let it up. It was just kind of like you let a good team hang in there long enough, like they're gonna capitalize, and that's what happened. There was some team, Old Dominion. I don't know if you know anything about them, Justice. They played at Arkansas State. Take it away.
I was thoroughly impressed because Old Dominion's season was already, over it from, they couldn't get to bowl eligibility. And so Arkansas State was already bowl eligible. And so this game to me really kind of came down to like what's inside you, what's your personal drive, because in the big scheme of things, in terms of playing for the rest of this year, it didn't really mean a whole lot to either team. One's already bowl eligible. Arkansas State could not win the Sun Belt West. Old Dominion could not become bowl eligible. And Old Dominion just really dominated this game. We've talked about Quinn Heinickel. Colton Joseph was injured. Quinn Heinickel, true freshman, got the start. For the first, 5 minutes, the announcers kept calling him Colton Joseph. There's two different numbers. How you can't tell that it's not number 2 and it's number 10, I don't know. And even the stat guys had it wrong in the beginning. They had that 92-yard touchdown run credited to Colton Joseph when it was Quinn Heinickel. But Old Dominion offensively ran the ball all over. Tight end Pat Conroy had himself a huge day. Had a 75-yard touchdown. Had 2 touchdowns on the day, and the Old Dominion defense had 6 sacks. That was the 5th most sacks in school history. And Jalen Rayner is a dual threat guy, and so the fact that they sacked him 6 times is pretty impressive. Again, I was just super impressed with the way Old Dominion played, given what was on the line, so to speak, for the game. They played a phenomenal game. They won the turnover battle, which has been a problem for Old Dominion the last few weeks. They've lost that turnover battle, and that's a big reason why they've lost the game or lost the games. They end the season on a high note. And so, a lot of optimism for next year. I don't expect that head coach Ricky Ronnie to be fired, this year. I think him and his entire staff, I believe, unless they leave for some other job, I don't think any of them are getting fired. I think next year is a make it or break it year. I feel like it's, they had an opportunity to win the Sun Belt East this year. They squandered those opportunities. We'll see what next year brings, but I for one, am optimistic, and that we will have a great year next year. But we'll talk about next year at some point in the future. But yeah, great game by Old Dominion on both sides of the ball.
All right, Jacksonville State at Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky does what they need to do. They win over Jacksonville State 19-17. I talked about my player of the week. 50-yard field goal is time. Well, I don't think it was as time expires. I think it left 3 seconds left.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the last one was just time expired, but I could be wrong.
But
the game winner.
Yeah, so Western Kentucky got the win there. We're gonna have a rematch of that game in the conference championship. But the big story here, Tyler Huff, quarterback for Jacksonville State. I don't know if it was I know it's an ankle injury. They're not going to say anything. Things are going to be kept close to the vest there as they go into the game this week. But he had 13 carries for 97 yards. But yeah, he got rolled up on. But yeah, congratulations to Western Kentucky in this one. App State at Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern wins 29-20. App State needed this game to become bowl eligible.
Georgia Southern needed to win it to have an opportunity to win the Sun Belt East. As it turns out, it wouldn't have mattered, but they didn't know that at that time.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, because their game I feel like finished before.
Yeah, it did finish before. It did. For this game, to me, it was like App State was able to move the ball. They just weren't able to really like punch it in for touchdowns. And that's kind of, Joey Aguilar had 2 interceptions. Certainly didn't help. And Georgia Southern got it done in the fourth quarter, scoring 14 points.
That team in the fourth quarter is something else. It's like a different team in the fourth quarter.
But they played well.
If
Jalen White had a heck of a day, 125 yards, 3 touchdowns. Amani Marshall had a great day for App State as well. A lot of running in the game.
And again, if you follow me on Fantrax, I wrote about Amani Marshall and Mekhi Jackson. Also had a big game. 8 receptions, 157 yards, and a touchdown. Nevada at UNLV. Let me find this game.
It wasn't much of a game. Maybe like very early, but UNLV, knowing what was at stake, knowing that all they had to do was win, and they're in the Mountain West Championship, they dominated this game from start to end. Hey, Nevada's had a good season. I don't think anyone expected Nevada. They only had 3 wins, but they were competitive. I don't know if anyone expected them to even get 3 wins. But I feel like they were competitive in just about every game. So kudos to Nevada, but UNLV, they meant business and they delivered on that.
Yeah, 38-14 was the final there. Maybe the game of the week.
Yeah.
I mean, this one was a good one.
It was a good one. A really good one.
Marshall at JMU. Marshall wins in overtime. Double, triple overtime. I'm trying to remember. Double
overtime.
They win 35-33. Maybe the gutsiest call
was that 4th down fake.
Marshall going for a field goal. They fake it. They get the first down. Heck, that could have been blocked. There's 2 guys like right in there, but then it left that edge open. The kicker scampers in, and then getting the 2-point conversion in that second overtime propels Marshall 35-33. It was Braxton.
It was an exciting game.
Braxton got that 2-point conversion. They used his big body, big frame to push around James Madison there at the end.
It was an exciting game in the second half, I should say. The first half was dominated by JMU. It was 17-0 at halftime.
And then after the end of the third quarter, it was 17-17. And then they tied in the fourth. But yeah, there was a lot of punting and stuff here and there. But Braylon Braxton turned it on. And the herd will be exciting next year too.
Yeah, and then Charles Huff, head coach Marshall, his contract expires in this year.
Yeah,
so there's
a lot of rumors.
He's denying them all.
Saying that he's going to go to Southern Miss. Is that what it was?
Yeah, that's what the rumors say. But the funny thing, I say funny, the thing that I find, like, from an outsider looking in, like, I'm like, wow, the JMU fans, like, they're calling for Bob Chesney's head. And I get, like, they blew some leads this year. They blew a 17-0 lead. They blew some leads in other games. But at the end of the day, they were 8-4, right in the thick of things in the Sun Belt East. And he's a
what I thought that team. Well, you thought more highly of JMU than I did. Like, you have this much turnover. Like, this is going to be hard. 8-4 is a hell of a season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what, like, I get, like, they're a successful program, but come on, like, I mean, you lost majority of your team to Indiana. They follow Coach Signetti. You bring in, a brand new coach. You got, so, like you said, so much turnover. I don't know, like, to me, like, I thought 8-win season was great. Their fans, their point is, well, we lost some games we shouldn't have lost. Well, okay, I get it, right?
Throw some streamers on it.
I'm just shocked that they're already calling for Bob Chesney's head. That just blows my mind. And then like there was a question in the post game press conference, and Bob Chesney basically put it on the fans. He said, "Look, in this new age in college football, we need money. We need NIL money. You're gonna have to pony up." That's basically what the message was, and fans were like so pissed off by that. And I got to say, the man's not wrong. Like that's the college football. That's college football today. You as a fan probably have way more impact, or can have way more impact than you ever could before because of NIL. And so he's not wrong. The fans
payments of $29.99 a month, you can make an impact.
I mean, you can, obviously, a lot of folks say, well, I don't have $1 million or whatever. That's fine. But, you get a lot of people donate $20 a month or whatever, and it adds up quickly. But the point being is the fans, fans can definitely have an impact. And I don't get the fans ripping him for that comment, because that's college football today. If you want, it's a big part of it, and you can, and it's something you as a fan can have some control over.
For just 50,000 payments of $20 a month, I mean, that's $1 million.
Yeah, and I don't know that any other than Memphis and probably Liberty, I don't know that any G5 has a collective of $1 million a year, but I could be wrong.
And then let's move to our last game of the week, an exciting one for different reasons. I thought this would be a game that we see. Why am I blanking on his name?
Devin Dampier.
Devin Dampier just go off, have a great game. Hawaii's pretty good at the run, but I thought this would be a fun game. New Mexico loses to Hawaii 38-30. Micah Alejado threw for 5 touchdown passes. He was the freshman player of the week, 469 yards passing. Pofili Ashlock made his resurgence. He's been quiet for a while. He had 8 receptions for 79 yards and a 3-yard touchdown. Devin Dampier, 19 of 31 for 176 yards and 101 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns for the Lobos. Eli Sanders had 121 yards rushing, which is pretty amazing just because Hawaii's been pretty good at the run.
Yeah, their defense has been pretty stout against the run.
Dampier missed a couple throws. Luke Wysong, there was a deep. I mean, all of them were deep balls, but there was one in the middle of the field, I think, in the second quarter, and then the first quarter there was one on the sideline. I think big shots that were missed. But yeah, this no bowling for New Mexico, but
still a phenomenal season. Phenomenal season for New Mexico. Yeah. The fact that they were even had the opportunity to go to a bowl, like that was pretty phenomenal compared to what most folks. I think you and I were pretty high on them, but I don't think we were high. We might have been the 2 guys most high on them, other than the team and their own fans. But I don't think anybody had them going bowling.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
The interesting thing here will be, can they hold on to their coaching staff? Can they hold on to their players and make a run at it next year? If they are, the biggest thing they're going to need to do is improve that defense. That was we thought the offensive line would be their Achilles heel. Their Achilles heel was the defense there for New Mexico.
Absolutely. But maybe we saw a star in the rising in Alejado, and maybe that's what Hawaii's what we saw there was him getting the ball out fast, making quick decisions. And I think this is what we envisioned what this offense would be like with Shager for the last 2 years. And I think we may have just seen what the future of Hawaii is.
Yeah, he looked phenomenal, man. He was throwing darts, he was dropping dimes. And I didn't realize he's as short as he is. Like, he's a pretty short kid. If he was much taller, he wouldn't be playing at Hawaii. He'd probably be playing at Alabama or Georgia or somewhere. But man, like, if you didn't get a chance to see it next year, that's somebody you're gonna want to know about, Micah Alejado. I was just super impressed from him. He reminded me a little bit, and again, size is a big part of it, of Kyler Murray. Definitely not as fast as Kyler Murray, but that's kind of. I mean, he's a small little dude, but man, he can sling that rock. Yeah, excited to see the Hawaii offense operate with Alejado next year.
All right, that does it. Those are our conference previews. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Come back and join us next week as we discuss what happened in all of the G5 Conference Championship games, and always bring you up to date on the latest news and happenings in the world of G5 college football. If you're watching us on X, please give us a retweet, a like, and a follow. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please subscribe. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. Again, we're only like 6 away on YouTube for subscribers to being at 500. Go out there and sub to that. We would appreciate it. And thank you all for your support. Until the next time, we are the G5 Hive.